there a motion? Jay has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Doug. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. All right, we're going to turn to updates from Luke, and I just want to start off by saying publicly, thank you for all of the work that you and your team have done in finalizing the rules. That was a heavy lift, and we're glad to see them finalized.
Oh, no, thank you. I mean, it was definitely a team effort. I mean, I think a lot of people in this room actually, Reggie, Sarah, Tim, Stephanie, Carl, Judy, everyone had a hand in this, Kim, Nancy. It was really a team effort. We were excited to, get this done. That wasn't the only thing we've been doing this last 3 months.
I know, so yeah.
To update on some of the other implementation things, the Maine paid leave portal, we're announcing for the first time, will release on January 6th. So we're gonna put that on the website today. The system is fully operational. We were just getting last minute testing and clearances done through state processes which have occurred. And so we are excited to launch the full portal on January 6th. Tim did 2 excellent demos that were recorded and are now online. One for employers. We had 2,200 attendees for that demo,
Wow.
which was our highest attended event ever. The TPA one, the third party administrator, I think we had roughly 500 attendees during it, but that is recorded now and online. We also added step-by-step guides of all the processes that Tim reviewed in the demos. Those are now on our website, maine.gov/paid leave, under the Maine paid leave contribution portals tab. It's a new tab at the bottom. So employers can take a look, and third-party administrators as they prepare for the full launch of the portal on January 6th. Also, launching on January 6th, we'll have our full call center customer service line open on the same day. Over the last 3 months, we have contracted with SavvyLinks, which is a Maine-based call center company. Very excited to partner with them. They were the only Maine-based company to bid, and we're excited. Out of 23 vendors, I should say, it was a very competitive bid. But they were the Maine-based employer that we ended up selecting, and we're super excited to partner with them. We have 40 agents that are training and have trained in the system and are learning it more this week. And we'll be ready to take calls from January 6th to help.
48, you said?
40 agents.
40 agents, yeah.
Call center agents,
Yeah.
So we're excited to partner with them to help support employers and third-party administrators get acquainted with the new system. And like I said, Tim will be demoing that for you all at the end of this meeting. The benefits RFP, so the claims administration RFP has been posted under the state procurement website. The questions are due to the RFP coordinator, which is Sarah Bryden, by Friday, December 20th. The proposals are due by January 24th. So that contract is now, or the request for proposals for that contract is now publicly posted online on the state procurement website. The RFP for the actuary is also done, but we're not going to post that until January. It's a little too early. We're going to post that in January with the goal of having an actuary in place by July 1st for a contract start date to have a report to present to you all well before your 2-1 vote on the start of benefits for 2026. We're still working with Ethos, our communications contractor, to put out another round of public education materials to help get the word out, although I think the word is pretty well out at this point, but continue to get the word out about the program and specifically to point small businesses and employers to the new Maine paid leave portal and the requirement to register for an account starting in January. And then finally, our hiring is going very well. We should, thanks to the efforts together of this team, we're going to be close to full staffing by the end of this month. So a lot done in 3 months, and happy to take any questions.
Great. Questions? A lot. I've started to hear the announcements over the radio, and yeah, it's good. Great.
I just have I made the mistake of watching the there was a news article about the contribution starting January 1 and article fine, but the comments on the article, I shouldn't have read those. But there is, it seems to be on a regular person basis, and I'm not talking about employers or anything like that, a lot of misinformation, about even really basic things like, 0.5% versus 1%, am I responsible for all 1%, and then a lot of like anger sort of things about like, oh, I'm sure they're not gonna approve anything. How are they gonna do this when they're understaffed? And so, which of course none of that's true. So while I think that, the campaign is important from an informational standpoint, I'm just wondering like what we could do to, like, I don't know, positively impact this consumers, I guess consumer, whatever, public sentiment about, like when even, I mean, I think people don't, they're not gonna come to the website. Like a regular person is not gonna go digging into the website to, they're just listening to what they hear on the news. Or maybe in, it's like third party, somebody said at work kind of concept. So I said, I don't know if we have any idea, like if that's part of the campaign, communication campaign is to, maybe like news outlets. Or I don't know, like that'll hit real regular people.
I can comment on that. No, that has been like the huge challenge because I
Yeah.
gotta admit, I've gone down the comment section. It's
Yeah.
hard not to. It's really hard not to. And some of that is unfortunate and it's almost like you only have so much control about the narrative about what people say, but I think what we can do as a department, because the phase 2 of the public education campaign will kick off next month. So if we just continue to reinforce the message and the positive message about paid leave, that would be helpful and we can always talk to our vendor to see what other ways that we can do it, because in October, we did a whole PR campaign that did involve, I think, articles and getting out in the news, but I think that is now old news. But it's something that we're monitoring and we'll definitely talk to our vendor to see what we can do to help tweak that narrative. with
Yeah, I
our
think as
people.
of January 1, since that's the day contributions start, you're gonna see a reintroduction
Mhm.
of talking about it, people, and yeah, I don't know if the vendor that has any, communications team has any ideas about potentially like social media adverts, that kind of stuff, like where people are, like meeting where people are.
Yeah, and part of the campaign is social media, so again, can't help but go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
When I do see the ads that are now coming up even on Facebook, it's factual, it gets to the
Good.
point. So we are definitely trying to meet people where they are especially on social media, but again, we can always find ways to.
Oh,
improve that.
I don't know, I just noticed it and
Yeah.
it was concerning.
Yeah.
Yes, Jane.
Is there anything that we as members of the authority can do, interviews or news,
Yeah, I mean, I think, if
Papers.
news reaches out or reaching out, right, that is always a good thing. The explainer videos on our websites, I think are super helpful for at least clearing up the misconceptions about who pays what and what the purpose of the first 15 months is, to Tina's point, like not everyone goes to the website. But I think there's an opportunity to push out those videos widely. There's short explainer videos. I think the one for employees is a minute, the one for employers is a minute and a half, so they're bite-sized videos. And I think it has a really good graphic of, taking 100% pay and then breaking it down to the 1% and then breaking it in half and making it very clear that the employers pay this, the employees pay this, and the responsibility of each. So I think that's at least a good way to get out, if you can, to your networks, those videos. They are getting a lot of hits on our website. I will say that the traffic to our website has picked up dramatically. We were averaging before October, before the public education webinars, roughly 1,000 hits to our website a week. Since October, since the launch of the public education, we've been at about 8,000 hits on our website a week. Last week alone, we had 64,000 hits to our website.
Wow.
If I had to guess, it's gonna be more this week, but we track it weekly, so the interest is definitely picking up, and I think the word is getting out, and people are, learning about it for the first time, and it's that initial reaction, and working through that with clear information. But I think the good news in all this is I don't think anybody's gonna be surprised when payroll deductions start in January. And that was always the goal, is we don't want anyone surprised when payroll deductions start. That was the bigger pitfall in all this, is we don't want people surprised.
Maria,
So I think,
Yes. Sam?
can I cut you off? Because I don't know what to do here.
Okay.
Can you
have a
hear me?
comment?
I guess I have so I'm a chair of Maine Auto Dealers. We've got 6,000 employees. I just spent the last 2 months going around for informational sessions, talking with dealers. I guess my takeaway was I did not feel like they had enough information. So as much as we want to hit the individual and the employee, I'd like to see DOL beef up the resources for employers, because we are going to have to put in either email or pay stubs or whatnot next week, because we have to give at least a week's notice. And as sophisticated as I thought most car dealerships are, with very large employees, we're still trying to struggle with how do we message this with our employee. And then ultimately, we have a decision. We as employers have a decision whether we're only doing the 50 basis points or we're doing the full 100 basis points on this. So yes, I like the social media and TV advertisements, but if we could get more information to the employer. I know it's December 17th right now, and obviously you guys already have channels to all the employees, whether it's through unemployment or whatnot. But if we could get that information to the employer, because a lot of employees, that's where they're going to get the information from, the employer, and they're going to see the check from the employer. They're not going to look at it from the state level. So if we could help support the employer in some more resources, that would be wonderful.
Sam, do you have any thoughts about how best to reach your constituents? Like what the Department of Labor or the authority can do to reach them?
So luckily with MAD or any trade, association, we have access to a lot of employees. So I don't know if that information needs to be filtered through. I mean, the DOL must know, and probably the insurance folks probably know what the big employers are in the state of Maine. Maybe Maine State Chamber, they obviously have access to a lot of employers in the state of Maine. Right now, I feel like without being on this board and without being a chair of a big association, without that, I feel like I would be very lost. As I'm an employer of 100 people, and I feel comfortable about it, but I know a lot of my peers do not feel comfortable about it. And they're getting the news perhaps from places they don't want, where they should not be getting the news. They should be getting the facts from the DOL so they can disseminate that amongst their employees.
Yeah, if I could just add a couple of things to what we have done and come back to if there are other suggestions that we could be doing. I welcome those. So we have done, as Luke said, the webinars. We have sent out email blasts to every employer and every worker that's signed up for anything at the Department of Labor. And then we will be sending out, if they haven't gone out already, the unemployment contribution rate
they haven't got out
notices.
yet, but they're going out soon.
So those
What is that? Can you explain?
So every December, we send out to all employers the unemployment contribution rates for the upcoming year. And there's always stuffers in there, and there's a one-page stuffer for PFML. It's the one pager that's on our website. It's what employers need to know for January 2025.
Okay, great.
So those should be going out any day now.
Yeah. And we are going to be starting weekly email blasts that list that Kim mentioned, kind of everyone that's signed up, for any kind of contact with DOL. So there was one that went out last week with the one pager and the FAQs and the demo videos. And I think that's partially why our web traffic went to 64,000 last week. We'll have another one going out next week, tomorrow. That'll announce the January 6th start date of the portal, point to the step-by-step guides, point again to the demos. And then, we'll keep doing that throughout the end of the month and into January as well. So
What, oh, I'm sorry, you had your hand up, Renee.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, something that we did, so obviously, I work at the Y, but we have an alliance of 15 Ys in Maine. And so we had Reggie come on a webinar, for all of the Ys, and that was super helpful. So I don't know, I don't wanna volunteer Reggie to
No,
do that
I
for
know,
people,
I do
but
them on demand at this point.
it was great. It was wonderful. It solved questions and they could have asked me and I probably could have answered most of them, but I think they just felt better getting it from the source. And, I mean, they asked, some of them seemed silly questions to me, but, I think that people just don't have the right information and you can put it out there everywhere and they're still not going to. But Reggie was great and it was very helpful. I think it eased a lot of people's frustrations. So thank you, Reggie. But maybe that's an option for others as well.
That's a great idea. Jenny, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to echo something that Sam had said regarding resources. I can't speak for him or anyone else, but I know that I would really like to be able to simply provide my employees with resources telling them what's going on. I really appreciate the PFML posters that are under the employer resources. That's great. That explains the program. But if there was a nice one pager in multiple languages that could provide information that you are going to see a deduction on your paycheck, this is what it is for. That's the type of thing that I think would be really helpful for at least my sector, who may or may not actually have any contact with the DOL because many ag employers don't actually have legally recognized employees and they are still covered. So if that is possible, and that would be helpful for someone like me, while the poster is great and I plan on including it with, with their next pay date, it doesn't explain, even though there's a paragraph that says that this deduction will be, it only averages out to like $3 or whatever for $600 a week or whatever, but it doesn't fully explain that, yes, this is funded by, you will see this deduction. That sort of clarity, I think, would be helpful for employees, at least for me.
No, thank you for that. So we can definitely entertain the idea of translating that one pager for employers, but we also got an update yesterday about the translated videos in multiple languages, so they're almost pretty much done. So once we approve it on our end, we'll definitely post those online, because the explainer videos right now are just in English, but we'll have them in Arabic, Spanish, French, Haitian Creole, and the other languages, so that's coming soon.
Well, and the other resource I was thinking of is we did develop another one pager for employees that we haven't distributed yet, because we didn't want to confuse it with the labor poster, right. But I do think there's value in potentially distributing that. It is kind of putting the information about deductions to employees in another way that's more like plain speak. We were just cautious about putting it out at the same time as the labor poster, which is required by law, to be posted. But to Jenny's point, I think it's a better resource to hand your employees to explain what this is about. So I think we can send that around to the authority. But also I think as long as we put it with the right context on the website, that this is not the labor law poster, I think we could probably thread that needle, that this is a helpful resource to hand your employees to help explain the program. It does not replace your responsibility to post a labor law poster. So I think we can work on that. In the meantime, send around the one pager employee handout to the authority to get to their networks. So
I would highly appreciate that. And I would never hesitate to put more information up that can help our employees with the idea that employers don't understand the distinction between what is required and what is not. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jenny. Sarah?
I was just wondering if it's helpful to have a specialized communication to brokers and insurers, because people are already entertaining private bids at this point, or proposals. And so they're tending to talk to their broker or their insurer about what's going on, and sort of connecting the dots on those two, I think would be super helpful, and showing that they're not in opposition to each other necessarily.
yeah, we have a lot of education materials we're working on right now for the private plan substitution process. Hoping to have those on the website in January. But that'll include obviously the self-insurance application. but also in-depth guides for both self-insurance, fully insured, products, and then, narrated webinars of, the process. The other thing I forgot to mention is we are finalizing with BOI, hopefully within a week or two, the checklist, for these, fully insured products. So that should be on their website soon. And I think that will, lead to a lot more discussion about that process as well.
And did you mention at an earlier meeting that something like 90 or 95% of employers in Maine use a payroll company, and that payroll companies are, I'm just wondering if that you've been working with them regarding the portal and everything, but is that another means to disseminate information?
Oh, totally. Yeah,
to employers?
NPRC, the National Payroll Consortium, I think the figure they use is 85 to 90%
Okay.
of companies in
Still
Maine
a lot,
are covered by a payroll company. We've had a couple meetings with them, and the last one we had within the last month, like, we answered all their questions, and they said that they felt pretty good about the rollout and their readiness at this point. So I think, all the big payroll companies, and they've been working with every payroll company he hears about, and also software companies, the big software companies you might think of, Intuit, Power Tech. I think there's a pretty good level of readiness there. But it is gonna be that need for employers to also register for the portal. So it's kind of, yes, they're ready, I think, with their technology, but also we need employers to be aware that they also have responsibilities in the area as well. And payroll companies will help message that too, yes.
Can I just clarify, when you say payroll companies, are you also including PEOs?
Yeah.
Because they're, okay, so there's a fair amount of those in Maine.
Sam has a question.
Oh, thank you. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I learned how to raise my hand here. Didn't learn that at school. Clarification. Actuarial report, timeline, you said 2026, we'll be able to see another actuarial report, Luke?
So the contract of when I want to hire the actuary, I want it by July 1st. So the actuary can study 2, but I would prefer 3/4 of data of revenue into the trust fund.
Okay.
I would like to see the report completed by January 1st, 2026, because the statutory deadline for the authority is to vote on the start of benefits by February 1st, 2026. So I would like to get that report to you all for review, early June 2026.
That's what I assumed and was hoping. So we saw the report before we, unleash funds. So good.
Yeah, I would like to give you all a
That's
month
the
at least to
idea.
read it, because they're dense. I mean, I don't know if people have read the commission actuary report, but it's dense information.
Yeah, multiple times.
Further questions about program updates, or shall we turn to the rules? Okay, let's turn to the rules. With questions about the final rules. Crystal clear. One question that I have is, it's not directly related to the final rules, but is whether, the department plans to track, information such as how many, employers are asserting an undue hardship, and how many have been,
Yes.
denied or granted the undue hardship. That will be tracked.
Yeah, there's certain data points by statute we have to track.
Right,
But the undue hardship, we absolutely want to track and see, how it's used, how often it's used.
and
Yeah.
fraud, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and. we
Fraud
have-
was another, I mean, fraud has come up sort of, has been an issue that has been, posed to me a couple times, and I'm just wondering if that's something, I mean, I think the final rules appear to track what's in the statute. There's not much wiggle room there, but I think there's also some question about, how much fraud really is there. So it might be helpful to have data collected about that. I don't know if that's something that the department plans to
No,
do
I
or is
agree,
required
yeah.
to do, but.
No, fraud and undue hardship are definitely data we want to track on top of the statutory requirements about just
Okay.
general claim information.
Yes.
I just have a general question also. get a sense of, now that the regulations are issued and you're gonna have an administrator that's taking all the, day to day on this. How are we gonna know when decisions are made? So for example, one of the outstanding questions I have, because it's pretty much too granular for this, but it's gonna come up, is who's gonna do FICA, right? Normally, when you have a short-term disability carrier, they, you make the decision, is a W-2 being issued by the insurer and a second W-2 by the employer? Is the authority, or excuse me, is the program going to do W-2s for people who take leave? Or are they gonna give that information back to the employer to do that? So it's those kinds of things that I don't know how we're gonna learn that, besides me bugging you, that nobody else will know.
Yeah, no, I think we'll work that out with you're talking about for the state plan specifically?
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe we're looking to give the option for the claimant to opt to have a withholding or not.
okay,
But I believe that what we wrote into the RFP is that the administrator will do the payroll deductions.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But just in general, as these other things come up, like, individual things, we've been great about updating FAQs.
Yeah.
Is that gonna continue? Is that where we look for that information, or will that just be held in the administrator bucket and it's between them and the claimant? We really don't know this stuff, or are you gonna issue new regs at some point that have more detail in them, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be putting out a lot more educational materials about benefits as we get closer
Yeah.
and closer. And FAQ, I think, will be the primary source. But eventually, I would imagine we're gonna have a whole section on our website, just like we do for employer resources, but like worker resources or applicant resources with guide for how you apply and the information that applicants need to know.
Right.
So that's really the focus, I think, of the public education campaign.
Well, but even things like, what's a significant relationship? You know what I mean? Obviously, that's brand new. That's gonna sort of evolve, I'm assuming, through the claims process.
Yep.
Same answer, right?
Yeah, no, our focus next year is, one, collecting the revenue, but two, developing these processes and putting out education materials about it for benefits before the 2026 starts.
So pretty much everything's gonna be on the website.
Yes, we're trying to make the website the one-stop shop.
Yeah, make it searchable, will you? Because when I'm looking at the FAQ, it's like, I had to tell people, because I had to figure this out my way, my own self, which was, you guys are updating that, and you don't know that it's being
Yeah.
updated. So if you think you looked at it once, you think you're up to date, but in reality, you've updated it again.
Yeah,
So take credit for that, because I don't think people know that.
yeah, we try to do an email blast every time
Right.
Reggie stepped out, but I think we try to do an email blast every time we update, but I think it's also got to the point we're up to like 40-something questions.
I'm sure.
We're gonna have a table of contents with what we'd like to hold in.
Mm.
So it's a little bit better organized with clickable links, and there actually is a contribution guide for employers under
Yeah.
employer resources that has a table of contents that you can click through. We'd like to see something similar for the FAQ document, and I think it's getting to that size, that's probably time to
Mm.
develop a table of contents. Because a lot of that guidance will be in the FAQ document. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
David has his hand up. David, are you there? I think you're on mute.
Unmute. Okay, there we go. All right, that seems much better. I had my hand raised. Can you hear? Oh, wait a minute.
Yes,
That's
we can hear you
much
now.
better. I could hear you and I raised my hand and no response. Now I got it. So to Sam's point on looking over the our actuarial stuff, are we also going to be looking at other states' performance in 25 to take a look at when our actual placement date will be? Did that make sense? Did that question make sense to you?
Are you asking if you want to see the metrics for other states for their claim data?
Yes, exactly.
That might
Exactly.
be a good topic of an authority meeting next year.
Mhm.
But every state that I know of produces an annual report, just like our state will require, for their claim data. They're all searchable online. I especially like Colorado's and, Oregon's, just because it's very flashy and well organized. But every state has one. But if we want, we could have a whole session just putting together those resources to send around to the authority and just reviewing what claims look like in other states. But all that information is online now. If you just pick a PFML state and search annual report, you'll need to come up to a link within the first couple of hits.
Great. I would feel really good before we pull the trigger, that this authority has taken a look at that other claims data to make sure that that decision to start paying is correct.
So are you saying, Luke, that is something, if we put that on the agenda for another meeting, that you could walk us through?
Yeah, I think we could probably
So-
compile those links and
Yeah.
send it out to the authority members to review before meeting, is what I'm thinking.
Okay,
And then we could discuss.
and then we could discuss
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Is
but
that-
it'd be great for somebody to interpret the data so that we're not growing through reams and reams of data. You know, here's what it looks like.
So, not to put more work on your plate, but is that something that you think we could circulate ahead, but that you or Reggie might be able to highlight some things or walk us through some things that are of note that the Department of Labor is paying attention to, and then
Yeah.
open it up for discussion? I mean, is
Yeah,
that,
I think we
is
can
that
probably handle
possible?
that, yeah.
okay. Is that
Thank you.
of interest? Seeing nods, sounds like a great idea to me. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Jay?
Luke, is there some consortium of state plans that you all can get maybe an earlier heads up for problems?
So the administrators actually meet monthly. We have a monthly standing call where we just talk about PFML programs and, lessons learned and, operations. There is a centralized, through USDOL and a couple like national organizations, they have some, PFML consortiums, but it's just the state administrators. But every state is its own program, so it's not like a national system where you have one person who's collecting all the data. You have 13 separate data systems, 13 separate reports. But we do meet monthly with all the state administrators. It's actually a very helpful, collaborative group, but there's no centralized source of PFML data because it's not a national program.
Right. But at least you get a heads up,
Yeah.
Connecticut's got this problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good.
Has a bond amount been set for self-insured?
That will be in the self-insurance application. We're getting close. We have
Okay.
a system that we think we want to adopt, but it's a big decision, the bond amount, so we want to make sure we get that right. But that will be in the self-insurance application that we're hoping to get up by January.
Okay. Questions regarding the rules or program updates?
I'm sorry, I have a quick
Yes,
question as it
yeah.
relates to contracted or 1099 associates. So if I understand my interpretation is that employer does not pay for those associates, is that correct?
If they're self-employed, a self-employed contractor, and 1099 kind of points to that, but it's just making sure they're actually classified correctly, because I think that could be a pitfall. But yes, self-employed contractors are not automatically included in the law. They can opt in if they choose, but they're not a quote unquote covered employee for the purposes of withholding premiums or the employee count for the employer's size.
Okay.
But I would just make sure they're classified correctly. And 1099 would point to that, but it's just making sure they're actually classified as independent contractors, self-employed.
Okay.
Can I ask, on that follow-up there, and I haven't really paid attention to the 1099, I've been more focused on the small business side, but, do they have to opt in by a certain date?
It's rolling.
It's
Yeah.
rolled, so even though,
The coverage starts it's in the rule, but I believe it's the first day of the quarter after they elect. And that's to prevent adverse selection where they would hop in, take
Yeah.
a claim. So it's a rolling opt-in starting, January 1st, somebody could opt in. They wouldn't get, obviously, the ability to apply for a claim until May 1st with everybody else. But the coverage starts on the first day of the quarter after they elect.
so if they did want to have coverage as of May 1st, they'd have to opt in by January 1st of 2026.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yes,
No later than March 31st.
no later than March 31st would be the last date actually, to be able to pull a claim.
Oh, because that's a
Yeah.
quarter before the May 1st.
Then it'll be effective April 1st,
Okay.
which would,
The first day after the quarter is elected.
Even that one day.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's been an adverse selection, but
Okay.
they're still in for, what is it, 3 years?
They have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to elect in for, okay. So you're thinking posthumously there, you're helping with adverse selection by having to stay in the program for a set period of
Yeah,
time after.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, other questions? Seeing none, should we turn to the portal demonstration?
Actually, Maria, can I just throw something out there? I guess this is a question about less of the rules and the law. Luke, how do you see the authority and the board through the next set of legislative proceedings? Because obviously there's going to be all sorts of new laws that, or proposed laws that are either going to pull this back or change the funding or, you know, try to offset everything that we've been doing. How should we be looking at that as a board and as an authority? Because that's going to be part of the information that gets out there too. You know, that there's the facts, funny things, and then there's the potential of all these changes through the next session. What's DOL's thoughts on that? We just continue to right the ship, and this is what we're asked to do, and that stuff is tertiary or at least secondary.
Sam, are you talking about, I mean, I heard something on the radio this morning about,
You'll see all sorts of lawmakers coming out with bills trying to either abolish this or change the rules.
I mean, I have thoughts, but I defer to Nancy if you want to go first, but.
Yeah, I have thoughts of, I mean, what I was thinking is, so I have, because I feel like it's my job. I have signed up for, the Committee on Labor, that each committee in the legislature, you can sign up with them and subscribe. If you were to do that, you would get things beyond PFML, like wage and hour and unemployment, so that's sort of my starting point for if anyone can sort of fine tune that, because that tells you things such as, you know, that gives you dates.
you would, yes, I mean, you would see when the public hearings would be, when the work sessions would be. I guess I was going to say, if the authority wants to make a comment on legislation, it would be just like you did for the rules. You would meet, discuss, and then vote on what the comment would be that you would submit to the Labor Committee. Or as individuals, you can submit testimony, or you could appear at a public hearing. That's the way to comment on the legislation.
If we appear as individuals, we are speaking for the authority.
You could say that you're a member, but that you're not speaking for the authority, yes.
All right, and
And
if
that-
you guys can just give us updates of what's going on, because this is ultimately going to come up as I go through the state and talk with everyone.
Yeah, we anticipate there will be multiple bills.
did you have other thoughts or comments, Luke, or?
No, I was just gonna, I mean, I think, yeah, I would just be aware of the information, but, you know, I see our job at the Department of Labor is that we're implementing a lot of public laws, you know, that's our primary focus in getting out clear information about that.
It also seems to me, if I'm not mistaken, that the role of the authority is to oversee and, you know, assist in education and implementation of the rule, not to assist in abolishing it. I don't know if others disagree with that.
Oh,
but I think that
no,
would be a-
totally. I was saying either side,
role.
either side. I just know that this is going to become even more public than it already is.
For sure. I do think that there are, you know, a number of areas that have been brought up already, and I'm sure there will be more as this gets rolled out about, you know, the law appears to say X. Should we consider, making a suggestion to the legislature to amend the law so that it works better? And, you know, I certainly think I don't know the process for that, though. Do you know? Either Nancy or Kim?
That's sort of my question, is the process when that occurs. What is our role? Or is it very clear what our role is?
I mean, the statute says that we can provide input, but I don't believe it lays out what the procedure is, how we would go about it. Presumably, we would discuss it as a group, we would vote, but then vote to do what? I'm not really sure. Do we send a letter to the Standing Commission on Labor, or I'm not really sure how we do that.
So the statutory language, and then I'll refer to Nancy, it said, the authority may recommend suggested legislation to the Joint Standing Committee of the Legislature having jurisdiction over labor matters. The Joint Standing Committee of the Legislature having jurisdiction over labor matters may submit a bill to any regular or special session based on legislation suggested in accordance with this paragraph.
And so yes, the authority can suggest legislation, and I'm not remembering off the top of my head what the deadlines are for doing that. Agency bills, for instance, was months ago. But certainly the authority, if there was a change that the authority wanted to make, could contact one of the labor chairs and discuss submitting a bill.
I think they just, the closure used to be in December, and they just said it's gonna be first week in January.
January 10th.
January 10th.
Yes.
For sponsored bills or for agency?
Not
For
for sponsored bills.
If we as the authority were to make a recommendation to the labor committee chair to sponsor a bill, they'd have to have that bill text or at least a concept draft if the ledge council allows it by the first week in January.
So probably as a practical matter, we would be looking at, well, either, so there could be bills that come through, right, that we see and that folks may want to comment on. One way or the other. But then in terms of our affirmatively bringing forth recommendations, the next time to do that probably would be next year, sounds like, right? So.
Yeah, I'm definitely not suggesting us come up with bills. I mean, none of us have the time, nor literally the authority, I guess. Just the comments of what is going to happen in the future. I just wanted people to be aware that this is going to come up. So.
No, I think it's a great point, Sam, and it's good for planning purposes too, to hear what the deadlines are and what to look out for and how to get the information. Makes sense. And I mean, I just invite or re-invite people to email me and Sam and Luke if there are items that you want to make sure get on the agenda for discussion. So that we can allow time for that in upcoming meetings, knowing what the timeframe looks like in terms of providing input on legislation. Okay, anything further before we turn to the portal demonstration? Seeing none.
Turning it over to Tim.
Turning it over, although somebody has their hand up. Let's see who it is. Whoever has their hand up, did you want to make a comment now? Did anybody read that? Okay, all right, take it away, Martin. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the public, and good morning to the committee members. My name is Timothy Applegate. I'm the Director of Finance for the Maine Paid Family and Medical Leave Program. The division I oversee is outward facing employer and third parties. My team, 2 members of which are in attendance, Carl and Stephanie. They'll be available to assist with navigating Maine's new PFML program. For the past few months, PFML staff, along with staff from Fast Enterprises, have been building and thoroughly testing our new robust paid leave system. Today, we will demonstrate some of the employer portal functionality, and then we will answer your questions. We are currently looking at the Maine paid leave portal homepage. This is where employers and third parties will register with Maine paid leave. Please note that the date we have our test system set to is April 1st, 2025, since that is when the first quarter filing will open up. The portal will be available for registration in January. To register, employers will click one of two links to register. For our example, Tim's Sugar Shack is registering. And here, it's asking what employers will need to complete the registration. Employers will need the legal name of their business, their federal EIN, the date they began paying wages in Maine, physical and billing addresses, as well as information about the number of employees the business had.
Can you make that a little bit bigger?
Here it's asking if Tim Sugar Shack is registering as a self-employed individual. The answer is no. And this question is about tribal governments, and Tim Sugar Shack is not a tribal government. The next question is asking when the business started paying wages in Maine, and for our demonstration, we'll be using January 1st, 2001. So this next question is important. It is asking employers if they had 15 or more employees on payroll for 20 or more work weeks in the past year, beginning on October 1st, 2023. Because Tim's Sugar Shack has less than 15 employees, we'll select that. On this screen, employers will enter their legal name, a DBA if one is used, and their FEIN.
Can I bump back a step? On that 15 employee count steps? Are there any, are you planning on putting in any, like, learn more, or go to this link? Like, if someone doesn't, like, they get to that question and they're like, I don't know what that question means.
Or like, does this include part-time? Is
Yeah,
this
how do I count?
seasonal?
Like, there should be like some kind of link to like, you know, educate. They may not have realized they needed the answer to that before they got to that stuff.
And people in Maine versus
Yeah.
employees in Maine.
Well, I'm sure you already have documents that you could direct people to. This would just be a good place, because once you get here, you're like, oh, I don't know what that means. And then you like, don't know where to go to find the answer.
I think we'd probably link back to the FAQ or something, potentially. But yeah, that's a good suggestion, yeah.
Like within the portal, there could be
Yeah.
links to learn, like, you don't know how to answer this question, click here, and then open a new browser window. So you don't navigate
Lose
away
what
from
you've
this
done,
one.
right?
Yeah,
And we'll also have our call center.
well, yeah, but I mean, that could be on there too, you know, like, but I think at the step is when people are gonna need it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we entered our FEIN. Next screen asks for a physical address. There will be a chance to enter a mailing address later. And you'll notice the blue hyperlink at the bottom to verify the address. This ensures that the address entered matches the United States Postal Service's database. If an employer's billing address differs from their physical address, they can enter it here. If a billing address is entered, it will also need to be verified like the physical address. The next screen asks if we will add a bank account. But we've decided to do it later than we're selecting now. On this screen, we'll do three things: create a username, set up password recovery, and set up communication preferences. So the first thing, you'll enter your name, then email. This email will be used as the username when logging into the Maine paid leave portal. This step does require verification. A code will be sent to the email address and can be entered here. For the purposes of our demo, we'll just populate the passcode. Once you enter the code, we'll move on to a password. Passwords must be at least 8 characters in length, have upper and lowercase letters, have both letters and numbers, as well as a special character. Once that is complete, we'll set up password recovery. You'll select a question from the drop-down menu. And for the demo, we'll be using, what was the name of your first pet? You'll type an answer. If the password is forgotten, employers will be asked this question. The next step is to set up communication preferences. Communication preferences can be sent to the registered email or sent elsewhere. So if a business has a shared email address, or if the owner doesn't want their email to be used all the time, they could send it to like HR@business.com or whatever. So if another email address is entered, it will also need to be verified. And for employers that use payroll processors, do not have communication sent to their email. We'll demonstrate how to get third-party access later. Next, we will add a valid phone number where employers can reach that. And the last thing to opt into is SMS messaging, which will send employers an SMS if there are any unread letters on the Maine paid leave portal, and we will choose to opt in. And here is the review tab. You want to review all entries. If correct, hit submit. If anything needs correcting, employers can hit the previous button below or one of the blue sections above. In this case, it's all correct. And this is the confirmation. Employers should keep the confirmation number, and for a printer-friendly version, click Printable View and print. Once employers have their confirmation number, they can click OK. This is the entire registration process that employers are required to complete. We anticipate it will only take a few minutes. And again, PFML staff will be available for assistance. I do want to take a second to point out that when the portal goes live, they'll have an employer resources page, which has our FAQs and some other documents. These resources can be viewed now at maine.gov/paidleave. Now we'll log in.
Hey, quick question. Does everybody, whether you have a third-party payer or whether you pay yourself, you have to log in as an employer?
Yeah, employers are required to register.
Okay, thank you.
You register the our payroll company wouldn't do that for you.
No.
Link the payroll, how do you?
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll show you how to do that.
Okay.
It's pretty slick. So to log in.
Tim, one other question.
Yes.
On the employer resources page or one of these resources pages, will there be a link available that essentially depicts this registration process on paper? So if somebody wanted to look at that
Yes.
first, say, this is exactly what I'm gonna need.
Yeah.
I need these 6.
Yeah, those are already posted to our website.
And they will be also in the employer resources guide within the portal, but those are on our website now under a new tab that's Maine paid leave contribution support. And the e-blast that goes out tomorrow will point employers to that to prepare for the release of this. Yeah.
It'd be very helpful.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
All right. So we'll use the email address that we registered with. And then the password. On this step, we'll set up multi-factor authentication using one of 3 options. An authentication app, message, or email. So when employers log into their Maine paid leave account, they'll be required to enter a code set to the option that they select. The option can be updated later if need be. For our demo, we'll be using the authentication app. If employers have an authentication app, they will take a picture of the QR code, follow the steps on their phone, and they should receive a security code. The code will be entered here, and for our demo, we will populate it. They may also click trust this device to skip the 2-factor authentication in the future. That's logging in. We're now looking at the summary page of Tim's Sugar Shack. This is what employers will see when they log in. The screen shows the business name, business address. Towards the center of the screen, in green, employers can see their balance and the paid leave account number above it. Employers that use payroll processors should provide them with that account number. Notice below in blue, the premium rate through December 31st, 2025.
I appreciate the fact that this looks like the sales tax and the income, you know, the MRS website. The fact that it looks the same is familiar and comforting.
Oh, good.
Sales tax yesterday.
Oh, gotcha, yeah. Yes, it is the same vendor. but-
Yeah, no, that's comforting enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of the functionality will be familiar. So we're now gonna add a payment method. And to get there, we'll click on the blue Manage My Profile hyperlink in the upper right-hand corner. This will bring us to where employers can manage their profile and security settings such as passwords and security questions. We'll click on the More tab and find the Manage Payment Methods panel. Let's see, we'll now add a bank account. We can do this by clicking Manage Payment Methods. Oh, set up new payment method, my bad. There. Here we'll enter the routing and account number. Select the bank account type below. And employers can edit the name field, which could be helpful if you will be using multiple bank accounts. And that's adding a bank account. Now we're going to file a quarterly wage report and need to get back to the home screen. A shortcut is to click on the green heart with a pine tree in it, and it would be brought right back to the home page. So to file a wage report for Tim Sugar Shack, on the right side of the screen, we'll click View and File Wage Reports. From here, we will click on the File Now hyperlink. For our demo, we'll be selecting first quarter of 2025. File a wage report, employers will need each employee's social security number, first and last name, and the wages earned during the first quarter. This next screen is used to determine if this is the business's final report. In this case, Tim Sugar Shack is still in business, so we will select now. There are two options for filing a wage report. The first is manually inputting wages, and the second is uploading an Excel spreadsheet. We'll demonstrate both now. To input a wage report manually, click the Add a Record hyperlink. Here, employers will enter each employee SSN, last name, first name, and the quarterly wages. A really great function of our system is that once employees are added to a record, they remain listed as an employee in subsequent quarters. Once they're added, employers will only have to edit their wages. If an employee no longer works for business, they can easily be removed. Okay, now let's upload an Excel spreadsheet wage report. To do so, click the Download Template hyperlink. And we'll download it here. And you'll notice, just like the manual input, that there are 4 columns: Social Security number, last name, first name, and quarterly wages. The next sheet has instructions such as Social Security number should be entered with no hyphens, and also that the first sheet must always be named employee wages. The name of the file can be customized for convenience. The third sheet is an example wage report. For purposes of our demonstration, we will upload a pre-filled spreadsheet. Once the wage information is entered, double check the report for accuracy and make edits as needed. In this case, it's all good, and we're going to go to next. The next screen asks if we want to enter a refund bank account. Tim Sugar Shack is not expecting a refund, so we will select no. This is the review screen. Please ensure that the number of employees and the wages are correct. The next screen is a payment screen. Because Tim Sugar Shack does not want to be late with payment, we will select yes to make a payment. The payment screen will display the amount due with the wage report, and the amount needs to be confirmed. We'll keep the payment date as April 1st. And if you remember earlier, when we added a bank account, we'll just select that here. Or employers can add another bank account. And to confirm the submission, employers will enter their password here. And this is their confirmation page. Now, if employers want a summary of wage reports, they can click on the period on the left, and this will display the quarter, the contributions, the credits for payments. With that, we're gonna go.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely.
So when you upload the spreadsheet with 4 columns of data, is that automatically populated in the system? So
Yes.
we might have 6,000
Yeah.
employees. What's the speed like if you have multiple? Is it quick, or you anticipate somebody waiting for that upload to happen?
It should be quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And security wise, what are the kind of protocols around, like, my organization, for example, we do a lot of file delivery through secure file transfer protocol. This is just an upload to a website.
Yeah.
Have you had any conversations around security and those types of concerns for employers?
Like specifically regarding social security.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because SSN's on it,
Yeah.
from a confidentiality standpoint, and, yeah.
Yeah, I would not say I'm the expert in security,
What was the question?
about, how secure our site is.
So uploading, I was just saying, yeah, so like social security numbers have to be uploaded, obviously.
Yeah.
This is an upload from, my laptop to a website if I'm the person doing that.
Yeah.
Our organization uses like secure file transfer protocols for a lot of data delivery, right? I'm not saying this isn't gonna be okay, but I'm sure I'll be asked, are there any other methods for, from an employer perspective, of delivering those files? Now,
So
maybe
without
in
getting-
other areas of the state, you may, like, wage reports from payroll and stuff, maybe you already have a process like this. I'm not sure how that works, that's why I'm asking.
So without getting into the details, I don't know if you want to take that, but we do have a pretty rigorous IT testing. We work with our Maine Office of Information Technology. They do all kinds of security scans, and they do, I'm forgetting, you asked about speed. Penetration, no, not penetration testing.
yeah.
There's penetration testing, there's speed testing.
Bandwidth and latency.
Yeah, latency, thank you. So I feel comfortable that it's been adequately tested. I'm assuming the URL is an HTTPS. I'm seeing it on, so I'm feeling like it's been covered now.
I'll follow on to that if you
Yeah.
don't mind. So that includes data breach protocols. So if something goes awry, will you have a process in place to notify people?
Yes. The state has protocols for that.
That's an answer for the question. It's a secure site, but if you're on an open source network on your laptop, that window from your laptop to the secure site is gonna be unencrypted if you don't have a personal VPN or something to have there.
Good point. Don't do your filing at the airport.
So that may be an important caution for folks, for employers to understand, if you're a small employer and you're gonna do this from your laptop, do it from, employee VPN or some other methodology to make sure that things are secure.
Yeah, just to add on to Kim's, like we did just pass our rigorous state security, certification last week. Laurie, can you talk to tokenization of social security numbers in the system? I know that's an added layer of security that is
Right.
specific to this system.
Yeah, so we tokenize all SSNs, so they aren't stored as the SSN, they are hashed in a way that can't easily be, you can't retrieve the SSN from the hash. And when it's necessary to display an SSN, just like we can differentiate people, we display the token. So you can see this employee, you know, is this employee has this token, it's the same token over here. So we know that person A is also person A over here, but in that comparison, you don't actually see the SSN anywhere. So, limiting where we store the SSN, is one factor of our security.
Businesses are already using some sort of secure portal to upload your wage information to the federal government, right?
Well, for MRS, it's the same company, and the same type of system, so it's, same security level roughly as the MRS system.
So it still depends on your personal computer and where you're.
Yeah.
Okay. Employers have questions about PFML. They can send us a message through the portal. Under the More tab, we'll click Send a Message. Now there are two options, one for general questions and one for PFML account specific questions. In this case, Tim Sugarshack has a question about the premium rate. So this will be the second hyperlink. This question does not concern a specific period, so the first option is the correct option. The question does relate to Tim's Sugarshack PFML account, so we will select account, and then we'll select rating. And we're gonna ask a question about what the premium rate is for 2025. And down below, you can also see that attachments can be added if need be. Employers will be alerted when a Maine paid leave staff member responds to their message. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the homepage. And
Oh, yeah, I'll have one back. That access request.
we're
came
supposed to
through.
see something. Yeah. There's a lot going on in the background that you guys can't see.
Not come through.
So we want to demonstrate the third-party access to it. Here, let's try this. In production, it's a little bit different, but in a test environment, we sort of have to do it manually in the background, to make things happen. Okay, so under Action Center, you will see that there is a notice. Here, there is a pending third-party access request. Tim Sugarshack has been given notice. We're gonna click on it. And then we'll see that Tim Sugarshack has been given notice that Pine Tree Payroll has requested access to their PFML account. Please note that by granting access, employers allow PFML staff to discuss their account with the designated payroll processor. And we'll select yes. And we'll click the grant account access box. So there are 4 levels of access. In this case, Tim Sugarshack has a full service payroll processor who will grant access to file and make wage payments.
So Tim, just to put a finer point on it,
Sure.
so employers will register, they're issued a number.
Yes.
We give that number to the payroll company. Payroll company will then request access? Is that how we would get that message
So,
saying third party?
They'll
access?
actually use your email address to request access. The account number is helpful to payroll processors to keep their data clean. Because they can file using an FEIN only. But having the account number and the FEIN just makes it so that they know exactly the right employer to the right employer. There you go. So they will request access to the account. The third party, and then the employer gets a notice saying, hey, your payroll processor wants access to your account. So if an employer has a third party, once they've granted them access, they'll take it from there. The payroll processor can file and pay on the employer's behalf. But please remember that employers are ultimately responsible for ensuring that wage reports are filed and that premiums are remitted. And with that, our demonstration is complete. We'll open it up to the authority for questions.
So, I haven't heard a lot of info from my payroll company yet. Do you think like payroll companies are generally, obviously they're withholding the 1/2, if that's the case, the 0.5%, from employee paycheck starting with the first payroll in January. Is it expected that payroll companies will be paying both portions in some way, or do you know that what payroll companies are kind of generally expecting to do? Cause like they're withholding the 0.5%,
Yeah.
but where are they getting my employer 0.5% from?
Probably from your bank account.
Like they'll pull it out at the
Yeah,
time of
like-
payment?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would assume you may want to clarify with them.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they'll tell me, but I know, in case people start asking me, I know it'll be maybe different for every payroll company.
Yeah, who's your,
Bangor,
okay, yeah, we've had a lot of.
yes, I assume.
Um, yeah,
I figure there's probably a general, like what most payroll companies are gonna do. There's probably an easiest way to do things.
yeah, my assumption is that they'll just take it out with each payroll.
Mhm.
But-
And then hold on to it. For the quarter.
I think that is their business model.
Totally.
When is the first quarter due? So, I mean, the first quarter, is it April 1 or is there time? Because
No, it's April 30th.
April 30th
Yeah.
will be when it's due. Okay. So 30 days following the end of the quarter.
Yes.
But wage reporting could start on April 1.
Sorry, what?
Wage reporting could start on April 1 though.
Able to report.
Oh, you're able to report.
You're able to report on April 1st,
Okay,
and then it's due by April 30th.
so between April 1 and April 30 is when.
And if my payroll company files my report and pays my, how much I owe, I can go into my account and I can verify that
Yeah,
they're withholding their end of the bargain.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
as you should.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
And then will this portal be used for notice of claims, approval or application for substantially equivalent plans? No.
No, that'll be, so in the RFP, we're looking for a separate employee portion, portal.
Okay,
This portal is gonna collect the wage data that will interface with that portal. And this is similar to the model that Connecticut uses, which is the only other state to privatize benefit administration. So they have a contribution collection system and an application system through their vendor. Both will link to our website, so it hopefully should be a seamless, experience for the user where they go to maine.gov/paid leave, apply for benefit here, report your contributions here, but there'll be two separate systems. But the data that we're compiling with this system will interface with the benefit system, both for developing the wage base, but also the exemption status for substitutions will happen through the contributions portal. So when that opens up in April, that still will require wage reporting to build wage rate, the wage base for the benefits eventually, but the exemption status will be used to interface back to the benefits portal. So if somebody applies for a claim, it can check like, oh wait, they're through a private plan company. They're not eligible for a state claim.
so are you saying that this portal that we just saw will be used for if there's a substantially equivalent plan? Like
Yeah, the private plan application process will be.
We'll go
this
through
portal.
this,
Yes.
okay.
This is the employer facing portal for basically every employer process outside of claims, that will be through the claims portal.
And is that something that has been developed yet? Like, what will that look like?
The private plan substitution process, yeah, that's been developed through our website, and that'll be, turned on April 1st.
Okay, I mean, is that something that we can see? Is it
Yeah.
fairly quick?
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, we get to see that.
I would just add the caveat, we're still working on the verbiage for some of it.
But the functionality.
The functionality is there.
From the homepage, under the More tab,
Mhm.
at the bottom, private plan, request substitution of private plan. And then there's all kinds of stuff for fully insured, self-insured. And again, there's the $250 application fee as well as the $250 administrative reimbursement fee.
So they select either fully insured or self-insured, and that determines what information they need on the next step. So if they do fully insured, obviously, we don't have any real insurance carriers yet, so just have some test data in here. We can put in our plan number and our benefit begin date. And we need the proof of that purchase that they get from their insurance carrier. Files are ready, obviously. And it's very similar review. You can go back and fix anything if needed.
I'm sorry, what did you upload? Like, there was a document that
It was a PDF. It's supposed to be proof of purchase of the plan.
And so that's the verbiage
Oh.
we're working on. This will be the first couple pages of the insurance document.
Got it.
To prove that they have an insurance document and that it's
We
an
signed the
approved
document, the
policy.
employer has signed a contract with.
Yeah.
And under the self-insurance, if they selected self-insurance, it would be the self-insurance application that they need to fill out, the form we provide, they would upload that.
And can payment of the application fee be made online?
Right, that happens
Mhm.
as soon as you continue from that review. It's just like paying for your wage report.
Yeah.
We filled in that amount of $250. And then, we selected our bank account, and when you submit this, that'll be debited from your bank account.
Do you think that, I mean, I'm imagining that there will be a number of products out there that many different employers will be using, the same product, so that it may auto-populate, and
So in the dropdown list that
Yeah.
you saw where it says insurance carrier
Right.
1, insurance carrier 2. As these plans get approved by DOI and us, the intention is to put those plans in.
right,
So you might have, company X as a selection and then policy number Y.
yep,
And so you click here, and we're gonna try to keep that, updated as insurance carriers
Get
get their
approved.
plans certified. But then they need to upload the actual document that they've signed contract, that they have a plan, the employer has a plan. They'll need to upload that for us to verify. So for the fully insured product, you can see it's gonna be a pretty quick process. We
Yeah.
hope as long as it's uploaded correctly.
right,
The verification of that should be pretty straightforward, because this is a pre-approved plan that's already been pre-approved by BOI and us. They're just uploading documentation that it's approved, an approved plan that will check, verify, and then, approve if it is, deny if it's some random plan or a PDF of a napkin. It's gonna be the self-insurance ones where they have the completed application, and that'll be on us to go through the actual policy documents, but the fully insured products are gonna be pretty straightforward.
will the fully insured is there a process for them to request approval before the first employer who has that plan, for example, is requesting to have it? Does that make sense? I mean, in other words, rather than,
Well, they can't offer it to employers without it having been approved first, I would assume.
Yeah, the first step is, so we're gonna finalize the checklist with BOI.
right,
That will go on BOI's website. Insurance carriers will put together filings to have their plans, these products that they create
through
certified
BOI?
to BOI.
I
Yep.
see, okay,
And they'll work with us to make sure that they work for the DOL side. BOI and us will certify those plans as those fully insured products as certified PFML compliant, the insurance carriers can then go out to the business community and market those plans. The employer, if they choose, can buy that, and then beginning April 1st, they upload their specific policy documents to the portal for us to verify and then approve if it's a pre-approved plan.
So will that certification process happen before April 1?
Yeah, it should. Yeah,
Has it already started happening?
we've had people express interest, but we need to finalize the list first.
Checklist.
Checklist, excuse me.
I mean, so my company, I already have a quote.
I do too.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, I
But
don't know
it's,
how
there's all
they're.
kinds of disclaimer language. though.
Yeah.
I think they're taking the broad strokes of law. I've heard about this. I've only seen one. And from the quotes I've seen, they're conditional on the finalized rules, but
Yeah.
like there is no plan out there right now that is certified by BOI as PFML compliant. Because the checklist has to be certified first. Then the insurance carriers need to have those certified, and then they need to market those plans. So I think they're taking the broad strokes of the law to generate these quotes, but I've heard that. But there are no PFML certified compliant plans in existence right now.
So will there be, where can employers go to see where is the list of plans that are certified? Would that be on MDOL or BOI website, or is that public information that's?
In Massachusetts, they posted, I mean, we could talk about getting it on, DOL website potentially, but I think the insurance carriers are gonna directly market it, would be my assumption. They're gonna be out there saying, hey, we have a PFML certified plan.
Mhm.
But if Massachusetts does have a centralized list, I think, on their PFML website.
It might not hurt to have these people really are approved.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm not worried about big companies being dissembling about that, but I mean, there's lots of companies out here, who we want anyone to be taken advantage of.
No, I see the benefit of the centralized
Yeah.
list on the trusted website, yeah.
Quick question. Will the private plans be held to the same standard as the state program with regard to premium? Like it's gotta be the same percent, even though they may be looking at offering combined STD benefits with it? Or will they carve that out and you'll consider it approved as long as that piece of the plan looks very much like the state plan?
So the employee can never be charged more than 0.5%
Okay,
of wages under the law for a PFML certified plan.
just for this 3-year guarantee period until you look at the rates again.
Never. I mean, the employee can never be deducted. The employer can pay whatever cost of the plan they want, but the employee can never have a deduction. While the premium is set at 1% for more than 0.5%.
Yeah, and
Okay,
so
but
after
didn't you
the,
say you're gonna be looking at it after 3 years to see if that's enough to?
Oh, the premium rate, yeah. So
Yeah,
the
okay.
employee can never be charged more than they would be for the state plan deduction. If that's an easier way of saying it.
right,
Okay,
But can an insurance company charge lower than the 1% if they choose to?
Yeah, if they choose to.
oh, you're doing that.
I have a quote.
Here, they're low, yeah.
I mean.
So.
Yeah. You have a question?
Yeah, no, just a comment, going back slightly to the posting of the carriers. It probably would make most sense to be on the DOL site
Yeah.
because it goes back to you all after our review of the checklist.
Yeah, that's what Massachusetts says. I agree.
And then it could be centralized on the PFML page.
PFML page,
Yeah,
right.
that-
And it's a one-stop shop.
one-stop shop, right, I agree. Questions about the portal? Being none, thank you very much. That was really helpful.
Nice work. This looks really good.
All right, let's move the discussion to our next meeting is going to be in February, and we have to hold a public meeting with public comment. So I think it's because we've never done one before as an authority, maybe it would be helpful to hear from you, Nancy or Luke, about what you would envision that looks like.
So, you have a remote policy, which really applies to board members, that you have live meetings. So really, it's up to the board. I mean, you want to publicize it in advance. It's up to the board of how you want to go about that. If you want to take comments live at the meeting. If you want to do that at the beginning of the meeting and then have your business meeting, you know, or your business meeting, which people, of course, are allowed to stay for. Whether you want to also do it both live and online. I don't know if you have any practical
No, I mean,
thoughts about this.
I would say it's really up to the authority. I
It's
think we
really up
can,
to the authority.
I think we can, accommodate, both, you know, remote comments, you know, and having people raise their hand and going through it and having them speak, if you want to set a time whether or not, you know, I think it's a question for you. The
Right,
authority.
you can do things like that. You can do a time limit. You can do, when I've seen, other, like, Board of Environmental Protection, which is, how can I say this? A sophisticated board with sophisticated constituents with big money, now at stake all the time. I've seen, sometimes they say, there's like topic areas. I mean, you could do it that way. Of course, as we saw with the rule, that sometimes becomes an issue because there might be someone who wants to speak and wants to speak about 5 different things. So I just want to think about that. Or you just do first come, first serve. There's different ways to do it.
So it sounds like the decision points for this group are whether we want to solicit or invite people to comment live and online, because we don't have to do it online, right? Live, we could just limit it to live if we wanted to. I'm not saying
I
I'm
think
in
you
favor of one
could,
or the other, I'm just.
I think yes, so I think since you since you allow board members to participate remotely, you have to allow public members to participate remotely. So you do have to allow online.
Okay, so live and online.
What about in advance? Like someone could have a public comment that,
No,
No, that's
that's
not
not,
allowed.
it's a
Okay.
public meeting.
okay,
Public meeting is like, is a
Right now.
box, right? You have to be in the box. That's a good question. So yes, and then what you might want to do is, you know, and then you decide, do you then take comments from the people who are in the room first?
Or
But
the
you
first
can
come,
in
first served.
advance have people sign up in advance and have a sign up sheet in advance. That's not a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah, I
Then
agree.
you can determine whether we need to be in the civic center or.
Right, because there's that,
I mean,
that's right,
during
we
the
might need a
legislative
bigger
session,
room.
it's the Big topic, you could be.
People will be
talking about
around,
a lot.
yeah.
Right, and you might get, right, and I mean, you might get comments, sort of what Tina was talking about, the comments in the newspaper, you might get comments that aren't really comments. That are existential comments about the program. Sweeping comments, not, not in the weeds. So yeah, there's that, but yeah, that's a good point, Doug. We might need a bigger room, so to solicit,
And will we get one of those fun clocks, like when we speak in front of committee? There is a
Yes.
time limit, or is public, what are the laws around public comment and time?
reasonable,
Yeah.
reasonable.
We did set time limits during the rulemaking.
Yeah, during public hearing, it's 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Is a long time.
Yeah.
3 minutes is a long time, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so to allow 3 minutes, what I have seen boards. I have seen a board, I mean, the legislative committees just have, their straight up time limit. I have seen a board look at the sign up sheet that morning. And take 60 minutes or 90 minutes divided by the number of people and come up with the time limit. I've seen that done.
That
Okay, so
seems
that's something-
reasonable. I've had a lot of great things that were not under the 3-minute mark, so I don't want
I mean,
people,
I think 2 minutes is reasonable. I think theoretically, I mean, less than a minute is not reasonable,
Yeah,
declaring that.
the 2 minutes.
I think 2 minutes is reasonable. I thought do you testify?
Yeah.
Isn't legislature 2 minutes?
Depends on the size of the
Yeah,
topic.
depends.
I mean, this is, and it stops people from rambling. If you,
Yeah.
like I said, 3 minutes, not to
Gotta make
counter
it
what Sam just said.
concise.
There are some, broad sweeping topics that do require more time. But 3 minutes, if you sit there and roll the clock, 3 minutes is a long time.
Right.
The legislature also can say the pro forces get so much time and the anti-forces get so much time, but I think we wouldn't be that.
I think it's hard to draw that line
Yeah.
here. Because we're not really, yeah,
I think so too. I also think it would be hard to draw a subject matter line. I mean,
Right.
yes,
we
I
don't
think
have
so
a
too.
particular
Right,
topic that we're asking for,
Right.
put on for this upcoming meeting. I mean, the rules are done and there was comment on that.
Yeah, I've not seen a committee that limits based on pro or con. They may give a certain amount of time and then switch back and forth, but there's still, opportunity for public comment that could go into the wee hours of the morning. Traditionally, I've seen 3 minutes, but there's nothing saying you can't do 2 minutes.
I would suspect, because of the legislative session and bills will be introduced. By the time we get ready to meet in February, folks would want to comment to us, thinking it might carry more weight with committee testimony in the future. So you could be seeing a lot of comment.
I mean, we could say 2 to 3 minutes, and if we get a large sign up sheet, go with the 2 minutes, and if it's shorter, give people more time, that would be one way to go. If 2 to 3 minutes is within the reasonable traditional range.
yes.
And then it's public comment, so we are there to listen, correct? We're not engaging. Is that,
I think so I think the only person that could engage would be the chair. And so I think it's up to you. I mean, you could allow board members to then, ask follow-up questions and that will simply lengthen the meeting. So I mean, that's something to think about too, whether it's even feasible to do that. You don't have to engage. You're mentally engaged, but you don't have to have that.
right, I'm just sort of envisioning what, sort of an orderly process. I mean, it may be that for this one, since we could hear, who knows what we'll hear, right?
Right.
Um,
And you do clarifying questions only, just to make sure that you've understood what the person's saying.
I think, usually what I've seen is clarifying questions only, is usually what I've seen
The question that becomes.
in the limited boards that,
the
Question
question.
is, would it be just the chair asking clarifying questions or any of the 15 members? Right, so because these can get lengthy. But the chair recognizes.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of opening it up for feedback from the group. Anything else that we should be considering?
How do we want to solicit, like,
yes, this is now coming up in my head as I think. So we're gonna have a meeting in February. Yes, that, in advance, there should be a mechanism for the authority to solicit a sign-up sheet. I mean, the department can control the sign-up sheet, and that's okay.
I think we should have people register in advance, so we have some sense of how many people will be present versus online.
So we know what
And
size.
then, so I
room.
think that it is, the department sending out an announcement. And you all can share that through your channel.
Right. And then knowing if we need a different room.
Right.
Okay, anything else that we should be? considering?
If it snows, call me the day before and I'll talk you through that. I mean, the normal rule is boards don't meet when state government is closed. When there's delayed openings are a very fluid thing, because delayed is only delayed for people who physically show up. at work and not for people who are remote that day, so there was recently a board meeting. And it was a delayed opening day, and the board was set to meet at 8:30 in the morning, and they met at 8:30 in the morning. Even though it was a delayed opening, so that is feasible to do. And it's also feasible if it's bad weather that morning, and if it's a delay, and if you still wanna go forward, because of the time sensitivity of this coupled with weather, you could do it fully remote, but then, you know, there'd have to be email blasts and all that, which is the other thing, the sign up telling you people's emails, because you wanna be able to tell them where it's gonna be. Right.
Email list, I was thinking if you have non-interested parties, because
Yeah.
workers and employees, because you want to make sure you solicit those.
Right.
Could
And then,
you, oh,
yeah.
sorry, could you separate comments by, like business oriented interests compared to worker oriented?
I think it's gonna be fluid though, I'm not
It's
sure.
just like,
Just in terms of solicitation, like we kind of set up the email list like that, so I just want to make sure we hit both, but like in terms of comments, like it's gonna be fluid and you could have someone as well as obviously. Thinking more in terms of like the email list serves.
So, and I know sometimes, I don't know if there are set sort of ground rules.
I mean, usually like general advice when, you know, what do we do when people get off topic? And over the years, I've developed the advice of it's 2 minutes, let it go. It causes more of a to-do to have a back and forth to shut it down. It's not worth the time and effort and angst.
Certainly, Stephen.
I was gonna say, unless they're, you know, disrespectful.
Right, and, when there's been certain very controversial, I can think of like a controversial environmental matter that, you know, have a place to have a presence in the room, let them know.
There should be some precedent with this public comment because you mentioned the Bureau of Environmental going over the EV mandates maybe 6 months ago. There was a public comment that lasted a long time. So we could probably just see what they did and see, maybe send some suggestions out, Luke, to how we handle this. I don't think the difference between 2 and 3 minutes or 400 minutes. Let's just see what has worked in the past and give us some suggestions.
Jay, go ahead.
And I presume the ground rules are we listen but don't comment unless we have a particular follow-up question.
Clarifying question.
Clarifying question.
I'm gonna, no, Jay, I'm gonna bring a big buzzer. And, you know, if I want them to stop, I'm, as vice chair, I think I get the buzzer.
We're gonna mute your microphone.
It's happened before. I'm used to it. My own family does it, so.
And you?
I think we have the time limit. I think it sounds like we're all willing to limit to just clarifying questions. I think, you know, we have to talk about how that happens. Does anybody just get to raise their hand and ask, or is it like a formal committee where they ask for permission, or however you want to do that? And then I would recommend we have somebody here running the tech, and that we take like 5 people in the room and then go to 5 people online, so that there's some back and forth. And
It's way easier to have that cadence defined and
yes,
to be as formal as possible, rather than like back and just have the chair actually drive all of that interaction.
I'm sorry, Doug, you're saying you're in
Have the
favor
chair
of having the chair drive it?
Chair recognize folks to ask clarifying questions rather than any kind of free fall. It's much easier to lay those going right up front and be very formal about it.
Right, so well, what I would say right now is, does the authority feel like they want to have a motion or a vote on this? Or, and you don't have to vote on the following, but, or does the authority just feel that they will leave it to, the chair to work out with the department? The logistics of the meeting?
Yes. I would,
You want that in-
leave it to the chair to coordinate with the department and come up with the, what the cadence is gonna be.
Second.
Jay seconded. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, any opposed? I'm not sure I saw somebody's hand linger. No, okay.
Sorry.
Motion carries. That's fine, thank you, Doc. Okay. So in terms of the date for the February meeting, could we do a poll sort of offline?
Yeah, so right now we have the 25th.
Oh, do we already have?
Yeah, we already had
have
it.
that? Oh, okay,
We
great.
did a poll a while ago.
Hope I-
I'm not here. Sorry, I'm not here the 25th.
Is that Michelle?
Yeah, sorry. Just saying it out there.
Okay. That's too bad. Would we be losing anybody else? I think maybe we had some tough decisions because
We had to make tough
we
decisions,
couldn't
yeah.
find a date that worked for us, everybody. So I think we went with the
It's
most.
vacation season, I think, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
School vacation.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is actually, that would affect my.
That's the week before.
It's the week after.
Yeah, the week
Okay.
after, okay.
I'll need the
Right.
Senate to reapprove me, so, you know, jury's out on me. We'll see how I do in front of the Senate in February.
Oh, you're up already?
February, yeah, 15th.
Oh, and Chris is as well.
Because there's staggered appointments, so some are like
Right.
1 year to start.
That's very quick. Okay.
Oh, so let me address that,
Yes,
by the
please.
way. So the way, you know, this is Hotel California, you can check out, but you can never leave. And, even though your term is 1 year, it doesn't end until you are replaced or until you resign. So if you keep on coming, you can keep on coming and you're still a board member. And if you don't feel like being a board member anymore, please, I'm begging you to resign, because if you don't resign, it makes it very difficult to get a quorum.
I just sent everything to Reggie.
As did I.
Right, and so that means that if you don't, and there's often delay, the other thing I wanna say, if there's a delay, don't take it personally. There's like hundreds of boards and board members, so don't take, it doesn't mean that the governor doesn't want you to continue to serve, it means that the governor hasn't reached her front burner yet.
We don't need to go through the same process that we did earlier in testifying in front of the committee and or doing.
Where did Reggie go? That's a Reggie question.
Reggie had the meeting.
Yeah,
I don't believe so. I think we just have to be voted again in the Senate.
But
yeah, you do have to be
Understood.
voted. I don't know,
We can get back to you on that.
yeah.
So you both submitted to re-up.
yes.
Oh, great, good.
And there's sure someone else too.
There's someone else and I think they also re-upped. Awesome.
And then when would we do, because we're supposed to do elections annually for chair and vice chair, is that correct? Thought I saw that.
I believe.
No, Maria, you're stuck. Chair for life. Yeah.
What's the day of this meeting?
But if
Oh,
those,
yeah,
if it was,
Maria's right, it's annual elections, so,
But so when
When was our
would that?
first meeting?
first meeting was March of this year.
Okay, so we really, yeah, we need to do it at the February meeting.
At the February meeting.
yeah, I was gonna say we could do February and then whatever the next one was. No?
Yeah, you could do.
Still
it
within
at
the annual
that. Yeah,
timeframe.
still within the annual timeframe, yeah, because it'd be tough to do it at that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
So
tough
we
to
would,
do.
we would set. Sounds like we should set a business meeting anyway for the 25th following the public comment periods, at least for the purposes of that, right? Or are you saying, on the 25th, we'll have the public comment period followed by business, sounds like we should probably have a business
Is it,
meeting.
is that the
public
date,
comment.
February 25th?
Right.
Either follow by a business meeting, or you can have you have to meet once a quarter.
Right.
So you could have your next business meeting, after April 1st to get into the next quarter, and you can always meet more often. So whatever you wish to do, those are your options.
Well, it would seem to me that the purpose of the business meeting on the 25th maybe would be to discuss the comments that we just heard, but also to vote in the next chair and vice chair. Right?
And this.
Or we're sending these. If anybody's interested, let us know.
So, okay, so do you have a date after February 25th?
We don't.
No.
It also depends on how long the public testimony goes.
That's true too.
Whether you want to have a business
Right.
meeting after that.
Right. If it's an hour, it's one thing. If it's gonna be 3 hours, we might not.
So do we anticipate like booking off half a day for the 25th or?
We probably should extend, just in case we need it.
So how much time would you say we should calendar?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
The public hearing, we blocked 8 hours and then we only needed an hour.
An hour.
Yeah,
It's very quick.
but I mean, it's a lot more real now than it was
Yeah.
6 months ago.
Right.
So I think we could block from 9 to 4. And then hope it's not a full day thing.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Right. I'll extend the meeting right now to 4. How about that?
All right, that sounds good. And we could set a business meeting. A contingent upon, I mean, we could vote to just delay discussion until the next meeting if we wanted to do that, right?
Yeah, you could have an agenda for business meeting and then just sign up.
Yeah.
To get to it, sure, you can do that.
Yes.
I just want to mention that I will be designating Superintendent Bob Perry as my designee. I was recently appointed acting commissioner and will be nominated as commissioner soon. So I will be his designee when he cannot be here.
Thank you, Joan. Thanks for your service. Congratulations. Yeah. All right. Anything further on planning for the February meeting?
I just have a general question.
Sure.
How can I find out more about the data breach protocols? Said it's all covered. Is it on like the DOL website or the state of Maine website or? how
I
can
don't know
find
that
out
it's
what
covered,
what the rules
but I
are.
can check on that.
That'd be great. Thanks. How about you? I get tons of data breach notifications and.
Typically, we do have, I mean, in the past, we have sent out letters to notify affected individuals and offered them, even though it's not required, we have offered a year of credit monitoring services.
It would just nice to know that we check that box.
Sure.
Thank you.
Further questions? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded by Jay. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.